Don Lemon was arrested in a hotel in Los Angeles where he was in town for the Grammys, which is Sunday. He spent a night in jail, apparently, Thursday night. He had a bond hearing the next day and was released on his own recognizance. Now, here he is, a photo of him after the court hearing. He was indicted by a grand jury in Minneapolis. So here's the docket report. Okay, so indicted on January 29th. The indictment was just unsealed per the judge's order that it remain sealed until after the defendants made their initial appearances. So presumably Don Lemon's bond hearing in Los Angeles is regarded as his initial appearance. Now this docket report doesn't say when the arraignment is, but Lemon's attorney in Los Angeles said it's scheduled for February 9th in Minneapolis, where he'll enter a plea of not guilty to all charges. So, what are the charges? Let's go to the indictment. Now, Title 18 United States Code Section 241 is the Ku Klux Klan Act. Section 248 is the FACE Act, and Section 2 is aiding and abetting, which is different from conspiracy. The KKK Act is a conspiracy crime. Okay, conspiracy requires a prior agreement between two or more persons to commit the offense, even if the underlying offense isn't committed or completed. Now, the aiding and abetting charge goes only to the FACE Act violation. Aiding and abetting requires that the underlying crime be completed, not just planned. The aider and abetter knowingly provides assistance during the crime, and that strikes at Don Lemon's assertions of innocence, claiming he was merely present as a journalist. Even if, as a journalist, he got caught up in the moment, he still could be convicted for aiding and abetting because of his actions once the crime was underway. Now, are these charges justified? Now, I've heard the media discussing how 5 judges refused to require that Don Lemon be arrested and how that allegedly proves he's been railroaded. Well, no, it doesn't. Now, the judges were Magistrate Judge Douglas L. Miko, District Judge Laura M. Provenzino, and an appellate panel of 3 judges. Now, here's the appellate panel's decision. One or more of the appellate judges, apparently, so that could mean all 3. Okay, we don't know. But they thought that probable cause clearly existed to arrest Don Lemon and the others, but didn't reverse the district judge's denial of the arrest warrant because the government had an alternate route to take the defendants into custody, that is to say, the grand jury. And one of the judges for the appellate panel said he would deny the petition without prejudice, meaning if the grand jury refuses to indict, come back to us, okay? That's what he was saying. Circuit Judge Graz. So what does that mean? It means Don Lemon and his friends are in hot water. Now, the appellate panel's concurring opinion is an extraordinary glimpse into the thinking of the appellate panel. So the DOJ was rightly encouraged and went to the grand jury and got the indictment right away. And when I read it, I wasn't surprised that the grand jury indicted. Grand jury proceedings are secret, but I can guess what evidence was presented. The DOJ probably presented the huge number of videos that the defendants themselves recorded and posted all over social media. Now, if we read through the indictment, it's a page-by-page recap of all those videos. And Don Lemon was prominently featured in the videos to bring attention to their extremely ill-advised takeover of the church. The indictment calls it a takeover, page 2. The defendants entered the church in a coordinated takeover-style attack and engaged in acts of oppression, intimidation, threats, interference, and physical obstruction. As a result of the defendants' conduct, the pastor and congregation were forced to terminate the church's worship service. Congregants fled the church building out of fear for their safety. Other congregants took steps to implement an emergency plan, and young children were left to wonder, as one child put it, if their parents were going to die. Page 5. The leaders, Nekima Levy Armstrong and Chantel Allen, advised their co-conspirators, including Don Lemon, about the target of their operation, i.e. City's Church, and provided instruction on how the operation would be conducted once they arrived. On the morning of January 18th, Lemon began live streaming, explaining to his audience that he was in Minnesota with an organization gearing up for resistance against the federal government's immigration policies, and he took steps to maintain operational secrecy, reminding co-conspirators to not disclose the target, and stepped away momentarily so his mic wouldn't reveal portions of the planning session. Now, page 7. The first wave of agitators was advised to enter the church undercover and position themselves around the church sanctuary. They should not sit together or wear anything activist identifying. Anyone who was activist identifying should wait and come in with the second wave. Okay, so this reveals deception. When the case was still being investigated, the agitators had claimed that they were just there to worship and had been invited in. No, they deceived the church to gain entry, and the story they told to the media after the fact was deceptive. Page 8. Defendant Armstrong declared loudly that the church was harboring a director of ICE and indicated the time for judgment had come. I mean, can you believe it? Co-conspirators joined in by yelling and blowing whistles in a takeover attack on the church. They chanted, "ICE out, hands up, don't shoot," and "stand up, fight back," in a church. Now, the churchgoers perceived the actions as threats of violence and potential prelude to a mass shooting. Okay, that's what it looked like to me on the video. Page 9. Physically occupying most of the main aisle and rows of chairs near the front of the church, physically obstructing people trying to exit or move about, loudly berating the pastor with questions about Christian nationalism and Christians wanting to have their faith be the law of the land. I mean, even the U.S. Congress can't agree about those things. How dare they try to bully the church into going along with their extremist viewpoints? Now let's go to the pages that describe Don Lemon's actions. Page 10. Okay, Defendant Lemon told his live stream audience about congregants leaving the church and a young man who was frightened, scared, and crying. Lemon said the reactions were understandable because the experience was traumatic and uncomfortable, which he said was the purpose. Lemon was surprised the police hadn't arrived yet and said the whole point is to disrupt. Page 11. Lemon and others surrounded the pastor, standing in close proximity to oppress and intimidate him, physically obstructed his freedom of movement while Lemon peppered him with questions to promote the resistance operations message. Yes, I recall that. Now, Don Lemon's questions were like, did they explain to you why they're there? I mean, so obnoxious. Now, when the pastor said they did not explain, Lemon says, this is what the First Amendment is about, the freedom to protest. No. The freedom to worship is part of the First Amendment as well. Now, the indictment says Lemon stood so close to the pastor that he caused the pastor's right hand to graze Lemon, at which point Lemon admonished the pastor, please don't push me. So that's mischaracterizing what happened, which is their entire gambit. Now, the activists claim they're being victimized. After causing most of the congregants to flee, the agitators began chanting, who shut this down? We shut this down. Now, some of them blocked the stairs leading to the church's childcare area, making it difficult and hazardous for parents to retrieve their children. Page 12. Lemon stood at the front door, confronting congregants and physically obstructing them from exiting so that he could challenge them with alleged facts about U.S. immigration policy. I mean, really? The churchgoers have no power to change U.S. immigration policy. The grand jury presumably watched the videos and read the indictment and voted to indict. Now, even one or more of the appellate judges said there was probable cause. So, was Don Lemon railroaded? Any of the defendants, were they railroaded? No, they were not. Absolutely not. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe.